This is a significant time. We've been talking about growth, enrollment growth, housing development growth in this community for over 2 years. We did a series last spring where we met with more than 500 elementary parents going to each of the elementary schools, because you've known for a long time that it is our recommendation that first we build an elementary school to help siphon off some of the growth that is going to soon be overcrowding Union Elementary and Boone Meadow. So let me gallop through, if you would, please. I appreciate it. So mostly about demographics and facilities this evening. Well, we know this stuff. You have to struggle before you grow, and I think you may have seen this before. 3 shots that I was totally serendipitous, standing outside a classroom at Stonegate, and click, click, click. And this little sweetie was doing what she was doing. She's struggling, and she's growing. We also know that we are growing physically. All around this community, you see growth happening frequently and in every attendance area. We know from our IDRC study that we account for 70, we being the Zionsville Community Schools district area, Eagle and Union Townships, accounts for 70% of this decade's growth in Boone County. So much growth going on. We also know, you certainly know, that you have no jurisdiction about making decisions about growth. It is not within your purview to do anything that stops or starts or approves of housing and its related growth as it manifests as enrollments in our school. We do have the IDRC study, and we've offered that to everyone. It is on our website. We've offered it to all the other agencies in this part of Boone County, such that they might use it for their planning. And of course, we have a new metric, a tool that could be used by zoning and planning authorities in both towns. We've offered it to both of them because it does a much better job than before in predicting what the impact on our schools will be when there is a housing development that is recommended for approval by them. So I'm hopeful that they will use that in years future. Now, we know that we've established targets long ago about about class sizes, and this was really instrumental in all that led up to our passage of the 2015 referendum, and we do our best to honor these across our schools, although folks who come in don't come in by a prescribed grade level, so it's a bit of a moving target, but we get there. You know that we've done a comprehensive facility study that is very granular, down to the doorknobs in terms of what their obsolescence is. You know that we have banded priority in assistance to those older facilities in bands of 0 to 5 years priority, 5 to 10, and 10 to 15 years. This is a picture of the Union Elementary slide about all the things that must be done to keep that, our newest elementary school, running and doing well for our youth. You've seen that we've made some progress in recent years. These things are complete as they come in on the slide. A lot of really good work done thanks to our partners with Skillman Incorporated, who did the original study and partnered with Mike and Becky and me as we proceeded to make progress. And by the way, Mike and Becky, please do chime in this evening on things that I miss or clarifications that you see that need to be made. So let's gallop through these demographics and facilities slides that I think are getting very, very close to what the recommendations will be for you a bit later in 2019, in a month or so. So we've done this demographic study, and the IDRC has been so good, well into the high 90s on their matching with what actually occurs. They've projected that we will see an average of about 206 students per year for the coming decade, new enrollments here. And they have done this by grade level, and they've always done this by grade level, and they've done a great job of showing us where they think that growth will occur. And these numbers are a bit small. I'm just, again, reiterating for folks who are listening to the podcast, and of course, this PowerPoint will be on the website so folks can scour it if they wish. The elementary school districts, which we'll focus on partially this evening, have shown different levels of growth as the community has grown more on the west side and more on the northeast side. Union Elementary and Boone Meadow have impressed the most and are now pinched with growth that is going to cause them to be at capacity. UCIDRC does a number of different graphic representations of how that growth is going to manifest across the elementaries, middles, and high schools. So we get to our planning board, which Mike Schaefer is a master of making happen for us, but on this far away, it's hard to see, so I'm going to blow it up a little bit for you so you can see that At present, we are already a little in the pink, and on this chart, in the pink means we are nearing capacity for, again, as I mentioned, those two elementary schools on our edges, Boone Meadow, rapid growth on the western edge of our district, and Union Elementary up north. So they are growing at, as we estimate using IDRC numbers and the as-built capacity of the building, as told to us by the architects, the 100% level. And certainly that means we have to do something, whether that's redistricting and moving bunches of kids and perhaps doing it multiple times, which we certainly never want to do. We have not redistricted in this district for 11 years. And we like that. We really like that that allows the students to finish an entire strand of grades without moving, and whenever that's possible, that's what we want to do. So we know BME and UE are obviously going to outstrip their capacity. We think that by 2022, Eagle, PDE, and Stonegate, based on the IDRC studies, are going to be in that 85% level. Now, back in the day, when school districts like ours would grow rapidly and we would see their capacities getting at near 85% in any given school, they would know that it was about time to be thinking about what's next. In those days, they didn't have to go on the ballot to build a new school. They simply would have a 1028 hearing and do some other things and qualify for a loan and move forward. That isn't how it is these days. So we've seen a slowing of people planning and trying to hit exactly on where they are going to be as they go out to get on the ballot to build something that is a new facility to accommodate growth. We know that we have a decade of growth ahead, and that planning these facilities to handle growth can minimize redistricting if we do it well. So again, no redistricting in 11 years. We think that our study tells us a single redistricting in 2022, coinciding with the opening of a 6th elementary school, could rebalance our attendance area until about 2028 or so. So we think that is, given the rapidity of our growth now at over 200 per year, that's a pretty good goal to get to. And again, when we came to two prior board members seated here, but when we came to that board in 2016, we thought we would have to redistrict in 2021 and 2023, and we're hoping this plan, through our research and IDRC's new numbers, will help us avoid that. Well, let's turn to the high school for a moment, if we could. You may recall that we finished a major addition, the Fieldhouse addition, and repurposing of several activities areas and classrooms in 2015-2016. We see that the pink shaded areas are coming up for us again in the early 20s. And we know that when you have an existing building that is as large as the physical plant at this high school, to add on to it, to construct new things attendant to it, as well as reconfigure things inside, takes a while. We have to keep it safe. We have to cordon things off. It's difficult to plan for those uses in a comprehensive high school around that. I wanted to have you pay close attention to the things that are in the 85 to 100% category during the current years through 2022-3-4. We know that in a high school this large, and in fact we're feeling it right now, that there are pinch spots with traffic, with 2,000 students now in the high school, because we have only one major corridor. We know that cafeteria spaces and other service spaces for youth are growing very, very sluggish in terms of their functionality for us. And so we know that we have to be on the plan. And in fact, we knew it from a 2008 study by Fanning Howie that we would have multiple opportunities to accommodate growth based on when students arrive in that high school. And so we're upon one of those opportunities, we think, and see that there are advantages financially and in our, again, accommodating of kids, as well as having things in the queue so that it costs taxpayers less to do these things together. To think about that elementary school along with the next remodel of the high school, whether it can come on in 2022 or 2023, we're not sure based on how long it will take to stage for that, but we do believe that those things are best handled simultaneously. I want to show you, as I circle 2307, that would be the projected enrollment in 22-23, and I'm going to circle 2700 all the way out there in 27-28, and show you that that's a 5-year window. That will become a little more important as I move through the coming slides. That 5-year window really makes me harken back to 2006. Because there could be folks in our community right now saying, well, why don't you just build another high school? We have 2,000 in that high school. And I was fortunate enough to come here in 2006 when there was a bit of controversy about whether or not we would have a second high school in this district. And so we spent the year studying that. We looked at the finance of it, we looked at the programmatic elements of it. We had a professor from Purdue University who came and presented to the board on various aspects of second high schools and 1 versus 2 high school districts. And oh my gosh, it was a year-long study. By May of 2007, when the board voted, the air had been let from the balloon that, in fact, it was improved at that point for this district with its financial situation and the coming of what we knew would be property tax caps to go long on the expenditure of another 120 to perhaps 200 million at that point for a second high school. So we have been looking at some facts and figures about high schools, single high school and double high school districts, just as a primer on what I'm trying to share with you about this 5-year window, characterized here by the 2307 enrollment of the high school to 2700 between 2022 and 27, 28. No Central Indiana high school today no Indiana school district with fewer than 16,000 students has 2 high schools. At present, our enrollment is 7,000. IDRC data suggests that our total enrollment, even all the way out to 2028, will still be 7,000 students shy of that current lowest level of 2 high school districts in the state of Indiana, or in the central Indiana area, with all the metro high schools and large districts in Marion County and surrounding. Cost estimate at this point, give or take, because obviously we have some aging up to when a second high school would actually come online, if now were the time for that consideration, 185 to 275 million based on what we build. The good news is that this board does hold land, about 88 acres in Union Township. At present, it has no infrastructure on it, so it would be very, very costly adding to this total to get sewer and water out there to that. But again, it is an ace to have for future years and perhaps some other timeline when consideration of the second high school is, again, right for this community. At present, it seems to us, us being Becky and Mike and Scott, who do this study and have done this study for years now, that the size of our current school and district, the funding implications, the timing, all if you're wrong, to now consider a second high school. Doesn't mean that it won't happen in the future. Growth will occur, but even, as I said, in 2028, we'll still only be at 9,000 students. So, again, the funding structure for hiring teachers is another thing to consider here. If you decided to go ahead and build a second high school right now, in fact, the entire funding structure for how we pay for those folks who deliver the core mission would have to change. Certainly, our current referendum that we've enjoyed having at the same tax level for multiple years would have to be very much larger just to staff another high school, because in doing that, you duplicate a number of services. So we simply couldn't staff high school number 2. Now, back in 2006, Mike and I were on the stump doing multiple meetings, dozens, scores of meetings about 1 versus 2 high schools. And the hue and cry was, we don't want to be too big. And at that point, certain folks were pointing to the east to a great high school that I shall not name, but as the CHS. Great high school and a lot of good outcomes. But folks said, we don't want to be that big. I don't know if you know, they were at 4,000 in that year, in 2006. So now, 12 years later, we have just crossed 2,000 in our current high school. So I think, again, these facts and figures may help community members see that it's just not, this window probably isn't the right window for making that decision. HSE, I spoke with the principal of HSE when they opened Fishers High School. And he was telling me that they were at 2,700 students in their school when they did it. And they were growing much faster. For those of you who've been around central Indiana, HSE grew at an alarming rate for years and years. And in fact, all the projections we see about the next 10 years of our growth do not match that in any way. So it is difficult to see us in that zone anytime soon. So, but even if those IDRC experts with their 20 years of reliability are wrong, I think, and we think, the next cycle for consideration is in the 2026, 2027 sort of time frame. you would have, assuming this recommendation moves forward and it seems prudent to do a new high school renovation and addition for the 2022-23 timeframe, then you will have the opportunity for perhaps a better consideration of what the implications are of a second high school. We will have another 8 or 9 years of chances to see what the legislature plans to do with regard to funding on a per pupil basis and so on. So we do have 2 more cycles as planned in 2008 for this campus and its growth. Doesn't mean you have to go through with both of those. Those were planned back in 2008 and renewed in early 2018, so very recent. And so one of those looks to be a 600 addition that I'm proposing that we look at yet this spring for possible approval and moving forward on that process that we're studying now in depth. You know, another thing that we don't know right now, we just have a new pathway system of graduation coming to the fore. We really don't know what high school will look like in 26, 27. It just seems to us that smart money for us in accommodating new growth at Zionsville Community High School really is with this next edition. And got a couple of slides to follow up on that. This is a planning board. Again, I want to make it larger. So if the elementary number 6 comes on in 2022, you can see how that manifests with the new red schoolhouses at the bottom. That's elementary school number 6. And you see that down the center aisle there with the yellow, you see what those capacities will be at that time. All very, very good numbers for all the elbow room you need in cafeterias and corridors and so on, so that kids can thrive in our school program. Similarly, if we look at the high school, in that span of 20, 22, 23, because again, this is a huge physical plan, and our great construction management folks will have quite a difficult time making it work, but that's what they do for a living, and we're thankful they're our partners. But we may have to build new pieces according to what the design is, which we're still working on with Fanning Howing, and then go in and remodel older pieces, similarly to what we did last time, where we had, we transitioned people to those new spaces that were useful, and then we did whatever remodeling was. So that takes some time for staging. But you see that whatever year that is, whether 22 or 23, we go from 97% capacity to 81, again, with that elbow room and ability to grow and to have our principals and teachers really, counselors, really make sense of whatever new order there is in doing high school in 2023 through 2027 or 28. So I really wanted to bring those pieces of information to you as well as foreshadow some things that will come your way in February. At this point, in terms of our analysis of best location for the 6th elementary school, it looks like it is that 875 campus, which we've planned for now for more than a decade. It's already owned by the board, and it is centrally located. That's really huge for redistricting the fewest number of students. Again, proposed redistricting time frame in our study is in the winter, spring of 2022. I know people are already asking me, well, when are we going to redistrict? Well, I want them to know that we don't want to move kids often if we can keep them. And so, it has ready utilities at 875. There are road upgrades coming for the 875 corridor there. So we think that all of those things are conducive. And what I'm showing you here in the circle is the footprint of New Union Elementary School, simply because, and we want to spend a bunch of time and effort on with our architects doing their work there if this is a non-starter with you in 20 months. So that's sort of the footprint of how that would look. Now, this is a master plan approved in 08 and 18, as I mentioned, for our high school. And you see that we wrote the word open down there. We opened in 2015-16 the latest remodel of this growing campus. We would propose that you strongly consider 22, 23 for the next. And then although our IVRC study only goes to 2028, if the last of those additions to this campus is to be done, then it would be, we assume, around 2030. That would take the enrollment up to 3,600 on this campus. It is a 70-acre landlocked campus, so you wouldn't you or a future board would still have the option to say, no, we think we're at the end, we're going to go to a second campus. And if financials and the ways that we do these things at that point are conducive, then obviously that is for some future board to make. But you see, this really lines up with how Fanning and Howie envisioned it way back in 2008. You can tell that's a company that does their business well. They saw how this was going. Of course, they didn't know the timeline because we didn't know about the rapidity of growth. Now we do. And so that's sort of the nub of the recommendations that are coming your way. So 2015, we began planning when we built the stadium out back in 2008. 2022-23, now we have an entirely new way of doing this with the necessity to go on the ballot before we build facilities this large. So we think 2019 is our planning year and doing year for that. And then if 2030 is the time when another expansion of CCHS is going to happen, then around 2026 would be appropriate for learning what it means to be on the ballot and how much and all of those projections. Or at that time to say, do we look at a second high school? And a community conversation about that. So let me tell you that for February's deeper dive, here's what we propose to bring to you. We're studying how would we bring these facilities online and bring this to fruition. We would estimate costs and bring those cost estimates to you. We would estimate the tax impact for various taxpayers and various brackets in terms of their property tax designation. 1% cap, 2%, 3%, and in the different areas across our district. We'll talk about the process. In fact, this is moved forward in 2019, and the timeline and the picayune details of that. If you'll hear that from me, us, in February of 2019, we'd be pleased to do that.